Compelling stories are not hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Join your host, Dr. Eric Shaw, prosecutor Ryan Frank, writer Adrian Bonenberger, and comedian Ryan Connor as they interview ordinary people about their extraordinary experiences. This is Baggage.
All right, welcome to Baggage. Tonight we have just me and Ryan Frank. And with us tonight is Brad Lilly, author and career firefighter. He's here to share some stories with us and talk about his time on the fire squad. Thank you for being on the show, Brad.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
All right. So, Brad, you're a little bit of a different guest for us, as you are already a published author and you have told a lot of your stories already. I don't want to kind of rehash old ground here, but I wouldn't mind just kind of hearing your kind of basic trajectory in and through the fire department. And then ultimately, maybe if you had a handful of stories that you found particularly meaningful or wanted to share with us tonight.
Yeah, sounds great. Let's see where it takes us. So 21 years old, had a college football scholarship, playing football, and ended up not working out. So started going to school for fire science. A buddy of mine, his dad was a firefighter on the local fire department, big city, capital city, Midwest town, and explained to us how he worked 10 days a month and could do pretty much whatever he wanted for all the rest of the other days. And it was 25 years and he could retire with a full pension and benefits. And he talked us into putting our applications in, and we got lucky and got hired. Was super naive about it. I thought, firefighters just did good things and helped people and got to be heroes every now and then. Had absolutely no clue what I was getting into. We'll fill in the blanks, but I did about 21 years at a big city fire department, and had a crazy roller coaster ride of a career, and then ended up having an accident and went out on duty disability. And it was the entire ride was trauma. I appreciate what you guys are doing here. So just excited to be here.
You ended up putting a lot of these stories down in a book, The Bravest, A Fireman's Tale by Brad Lilly. We'll plug it again at the end, but where's some places people can find that?
Yeah, so Amazon's a great spot. You'll see all kinds of reviews on it from folks that think I portrayed it accurately, from coworkers that are pretty pissed off that I told all the secrets that I did about the profession, from people who just don't want to hear the dark side of firefighting. So, and that's pretty much what it was. It was the good, the bad, and the ridiculously ugly. And it was a tell-all of my experience.
During your 21 years, was there a time when you were like, oh, I made a mistake? Do you not regret going into the fire service? Maybe that's the question. Do you regret going in?
No, not at all. I think at 21 years old, it was pure adrenaline, and that's what I was looking for. It was a chance to be a hero. It was a chance to make a difference, a positive impact in people's lives, meet them on the worst day of their lives and try and make it better. And so absolutely no regrets. If I was 21, I'd have made the same choice all over again. Now that I'm 50 or knocking on 50's door, I think for the wage of a long haul trucker, I think the risk versus reward is a little inappropriate. It doesn't really line up with what I know now, but at the time.
One thing that I find fascinating with your book is how so much of it paralleled my experience with going through EMS and this kind of like building of cumulative trauma. And we've made the analogy before of almost the frog in water. Or the frog in boiling water. You don't necessarily notice it happening until you're so far in. And then when you're that far in, you're already pretty fucked up. And it's hard to kind of like extract yourself or see where the problems are, because your psyche has been changed so much by that trauma. And I liked how in your book you went from like year 1 to year 2 to year 3, and things just escalated with so much stuff. Now, I won't say that my life paralleled yours with some of the we'll say extracurricular stuff of the fire department, but particularly with the violence and trauma of the calls, and this kind of like sense of almost like numbing or just like, I think I told the story of mine of like at one point I got upset that I should have been upset, but I wasn't. and I just seen something absolutely terrible, and I was like, I'm going to go have my lunch, and that's not okay.
Yeah.
That's not okay that I'm okay. Can you kind of talk more on that about like, when did you realize that things were a little bit off?
Oh, absolutely. I think I think for me, I expected CPRs to go a lot differently straight out of the gate. Like I thought when you did CPR, you saved people, and it, in a pre-hospital setting, that's rarely the case. I think it might have been like year 5 when I got my first CPR save, and that was after hundreds of them. So like pretty early on, the traumas that I saw, like it was really difficult to process. Like year 2 or 3, the one of the nurses in the emergency room got fired and went out to the parking ramp at the hospital, and I was sitting on the bumper of the ambulance smoking a cigarette in between calls, and she jumped off the 6-story parking ramp and landed directly in front of me. So I mean, like it's just things like that happen. You're totally calm and you're totally relaxed, and then all of a sudden just a body falls out of the sky on the pavement in front of you. Like that's pretty much the entire career. Like it's moments.
I mean, so that you said that's year 3.
There's something like
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So early on anyway.
Absolutely.
At what point are you like, I gotta change? Well, or do you say, I gotta change, I gotta get out, this isn't right, this isn't normal? Did you feel trapped? Like what's going through your mind in the formative years, the early years?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I think it was all so fresh and brand new and exciting. And I mean, when you weren't making calls and working, you were partying with the other guys, and it was pure chaos and adrenaline junkie. Like it was nuts. When we'd party with the police, there were no rules, there were no laws. Everything was on the table. So I think when I hired on, so this is late '90s, and we were supposed to. So Eric, I really relate a lot to your first podcast and the EMS aspect of it. A lot of the stories hit home, and thank you for your service and for doing that and for what you do now. And same for you, Ryan. Appreciate all the effort and the work that you put into keeping us safe, and all that you do to put the criminals behind bars, man. And I got a great prosecutor story for you too. But getting back to your question, so when I hired on, we were supposed to be on an ambulance rotation for about 8 years until we made the rank of engineer. So everybody at the rank of firefighter was in that ambulance rotation, and there were about 70 to 80 people on our department that were in that rotation. So it was about every 3 days you rode an ambulance, the rest you were on an engine or a ladder truck. When 06 rolled around, which was right about the time that was about the 8-year mark, the economy took a tank and we started layoffs and hiring freezes. And that 8 years on the ambulance, so they kept promoting people, but they wouldn't hire anybody new. So we started riding every 2 days, and then it was every day. And it went from 8 years to 14 years that was the case. When they put the hiring freeze on, I was right at the top. I was a senior firefighter, and I was a few spots away from a promotion. So I expected to get off that ambulance pretty quick. And there were times when we went 24 hours a day with 24 calls. Like it was from call to call to call, and you never stopped, and you never ate, and you never slept. And it was just constant trauma. And then you lost the whole next day of your life. So, because you just passed out when you walked in the door.
I was so proud of myself during that time of how fast I could eat. And if it was hot food, like I could eat an entire extra value meal in the like 3 to 4 minutes it would take to get from there to the call. I could just shove it all in my mouth because like, that's it. This is my one chance to eat today. This is happening.
Yeah. In the book, I said, thank God for the lady who stocked the snack room, the EMS report writing room with the saltine crackers and the coffee. Like, I mean, sometimes that was your dinner. So it was crazy. So yeah, during that 8 to 14 year mark, when sometimes every time you went to work, you were on an ambulance, and it was just constant trauma. And then you'd take overtime sometimes too, and you'd lose touch with your family. And that's kind of when it all fell apart.
So you said family. So you said it's all fell apart with family. Were you in a relationship at any point? Got married, kids at any point?
Yeah, so I kind of talk about it in the beginning of the book. So when I hired on, they asked me like how I would deal with trauma in the interview, right? And I said, well, I have a really strong faith in God, and I pray, and I say I was on the God squad, and that kind of fell apart really quick. But yeah, I was married and had 2 kids when I got hired, just barely old enough to buy a beer. And just I think the corruption that I saw played a big part of that. I really got sucked into that. Yeah, it was it's a tough spot to have a family.
Yeah, I don't want to get into anything that, one, is already covered in the book and you want people to read the book, or two, you don't feel comfortable sharing. But can you explain a little bit in what sense being around that, being roped up in that world, and being a family man was a problem, and in what way was that a challenge for you?
Okay, so
Man, you definitely need to read the book, Ryan.
Okay, yeah, I know. I intentionally did not, because for this podcast, I wanted to go in blind.
I got hired in October, right, and went through a 2-month academy. So mid-December, I hit the stations, and a week later was my first Christmas party for the department, and they specifically told us, don't bring your spouse. So I told my wife to stay at home. I'm just going to go have a few beers and I'll be back. And this was at a local hotel bar, and it was an orgy. It literally was cops and police, and I'm sorry, cops and firefighters and hospital staff and any drug you could possibly imagine, and everybody sleeping together, married female captains. Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. I didn't make it home till 4 a.m, and that was my first week in the stations. Like it was bad. There was a lot of debauchery.
What were you thinking? Were you thinking, oh my God, how do I get out of this? Were you thinking, hell yeah, this is awesome? I mean, like, well, where were you on the spectrum?
I was kind of in the middle, man. Like I didn't really know what to think, and I didn't want to be, I wanted to be part of the cool crowd. And I think in hindsight, that was the wrong choice.
This is in your early 20s.
Yeah, I didn't want to be the awkward kid that nobody trusted. I wanted to be on all the USAR teams, the urban search and rescue. I wanted to be, the special ops guy. I wanted to be all these great things and a part of all these teams, and all the cool firefighters were doing it. So I guess I just, got sucked in. It was rough. Eric, actually, you'd party all night and come into work the next day. I mean, that was sometimes we'd walk in and make breakfast.
I don't know where to go from there. Eric, go ahead.
So there's a degree of apples and oranges about his experience and mine. So, and I think a lot of it has to do with a pure fire system where like they do kind of own the city there, and they have a lot of control. Whereas I worked for a contractor called AMR who contracted with the city to run their ambulance service. And so I'm not going to say we were more professional, because that is not accurate at all, but it was just a very different kind of organization and group where like we were just kind of like paid monkeys that went in and like did their shifts and like went home. But there was no bunkhouse. There was no stations. We were stationed just at random streets around the city when we were on call.
You weren't government employees.
No, I was an employee of AMR.
Right. So that's a big difference right there. I mean, if you're a government employee, then you're kind of under the same umbrella, as an independent, basically independent. You're subject to a lot more scrutiny, maybe. Is that it?
Well, and I'm not going to say like we didn't do this stuff, but just not to the scale that what Brad talks about, and not necessarily this like kind of like layer upon layer of shenanigans. It was more so like, hey, me and this partner kind of hit it off, and like, hey, we're cool with this nurse at the ER. Like, maybe we'll go for some drinks afterwards. And Eric, we had him on as the flight medic. He was my first training partner, and him and I worked under a preceptor. And him and I were both new to the Richmond area. We were both young and kind of out of college, and we were just going nuts. Like, because we were the only ones we knew in the city. We were having this stressful thing, and we'd be out till like bar close, and then at work at 6 a.m. And the two of us, we'd have to get there and set up the ambulance, make sure everything was there, and then we'd pass out in the back. And like I would take the bench seat, and he would take the bed, And our preceptor would come out and open the back door and be like, "It smells like a bar in here." And we're like, "That is correct. It definitely should."
Where were you at?
Yeah, exactly. We missed you last night, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, "Are you still drunk?" And we're like,
Pretty much. Maybe.
We're like, "You're in charge. You're the one. We're just, training. So it's cool." It's like, "It's not cool."
There's a chapter in the book where I just talk about how everybody's high. Pretty much everybody was high on something, whether it was sex or drugs or alcohol or whatever. Somebody was getting their fix, and everybody had a different addiction.
Did you see people, I don't know, lack of a better term, trapped in that life, or was there a high turnover because of that, or both?
Yeah, so I buried 9 of my active duty coworkers, and 5 of them were for suicides. It was tragic. One was murdered. A lot of them were heart attacks or strokes as soon as they made battalion chief rank. It was a meat grinder, man.
Yeah. So when in the end of your book, and when you talk about you had the concussion and you got diagnosed with PTSD, did you ever think you had PTSD throughout your time working there, or did you just think this was just part of the job, and it only kind of hit at the end when you kind of stepped away?
No, everybody knows we got it. I mean, your post-incident analysis, your PIAs, your critical incident stress debriefings. I mean, everybody knows that we have PTSD. It's just to what degree you can be functional. We all got it, and we all know it. And when's the straw going to break the camel's back? And you become an invalid because you can't function anymore. We laugh about it, but yeah, we all know we got it.
This is so interesting. We interviewed a ER doctor who works with canine companions, and she had this most eloquent, beautiful kind of description of the evolution of her PTSD and then what she did about it. And I feel like our experience was just so different, where it was just this kind of you're just thrown right in. You do what you do to get by. No one really gives a shit how you feel. And hers was just said. Hers were just oh, I had some friends say that I was, grumpy when I wasn't at work, or, was not at work and things like this. And so she had it so beautiful, but it was just such a different lived experience than I think that we went through.
Yeah. And we made fun of people. It sounds terrible, but if you couldn't hack it, you were weak, and you were shunned from the group, the guys that got stuff done. You were tainted goods if you let it get to you. So yeah, we bury it down deep, and we don't talk about that.
Just pack.
Yep. Yep. Pack it all in. If you talk about it, then you're yeah.
We do the debriefings, and no one wanted to participate. Or we just make fun. We just make fun of the guys trying to do it. We're not doing this. No one wants to talk about this shit.
I think I've waited long enough. What's the prosecutor story?
Yeah. So back to the corruption, right? So when I first hired on, one of the things that really startled me was that you don't hear about this stuff when you're just a civilian. You don't hear about everything going on in the city, and especially when politicians or elected officials are involved. It gets brushed under the rug so fast, and just quashed, and you're not allowed to talk about it, and you never hear it in the news. And it was it was difficult when I made a PI that the prosecuting attorney's father killed somebody. He was under the influence. He was DUI, and he killed somebody, and it never made the news, and nothing ever happened to him, and it just disappeared instantly as soon as we transported the other patient that was in the car that he hit, and nobody ever talked about that stuff. That's not the story, though. Come to find out, this same prosecutor was maintaining a sex trafficking ring for his own personal enjoyment, and this is just what went on. The mayor's son was a drug trafficker, well known. You could get any drugs you wanted from the mayor's son. The corruption was unbelievable. It was unfathomable. And as a new kid, just to see everything that went on in my city that I grew up in, that I thought was a great place to live, it was kind of disheartening and discouraging. And and at the same time, kind of miraculous to know that that these people were powerful enough to just make things disappear. So that's why nobody talked about it, because you'd be next. So
That's crazy. So obviously, you'd mentioned it in the beginning that there's comments where former people that you, former coworkers of yours, maybe take issue with some of this. What? But some are supportive as well. What are your thoughts about that? Are they still in it? What's their take on it?
yeah, so if you kind of went against any of the status quo that was going on, you were shunned from the group. You were branded an outcast. You had to ride with partners on the ambulance that nobody wanted to ride with. You had to you'd be given all the crap jobs and not included in any of the promotional activities, even though you were qualified. Like, you were passed over for a lot of stuff. It was just it made it difficult. So there was a lot of nepotism. There were fathers, brothers, cousins, sons. There was a lot of just a lot of stuff that you thought would have been done in the 50s and 60s, and then we made forward progress. And this is a capital city, man. This is it was completely unexpected.
One thing that I've struggled with the PTSD aspect of it is, like, some of these things are almost seared into your brain, and you can see every detail of it and remember it better than I can remember even like the birth of my children. There's just stuff that is just in there. And I know in your book you say don't ever ask a firefighter like what's the worst thing they've ever seen. So I'm not going to ask you that.
It's always the first thing anybody asks when they find out you're a firefighter. You're like, why, man?
We're not doing that. I don't ever want to do that.
Yeah.
But are there any particular...
That's good advice, by the way, because I probably would have asked that. Like, what's the craziest thing?
You don't even
like,
think about it, and you don't...
No, I wouldn't think about it.
Yeah.
But are there
Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Are there any particular calls that stood out to you as either meaningful or particularly impactful, something that just kind of hit you so hard that you carried it with you, or that changed the way that you viewed the job or yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was brand new, just out of the academy and just out of my FTI field training instructor proctor supervision, we made a call on a little boy, probably 8 or 9 years old, who got he was involved in a hit and run at the school crosswalk, and it was a 35-mile-per-hour road. He probably got hit by a car doing 50 or 60 miles an hour. And they just blew through the whole crosswalk. So we arrived first on the engine, and the ambulance was right behind us because it's fire-based EMS. It's right there with in the station with us. So, but it was just this little blonde kid laying in the road, his leg wrapped up around his head, and I got to do the primary assessment on him. And as I knelt down by him, I could see his eye. And his pupil was blown. His eye was pretty much out of its socket, and his pupil was blown, which I remember was a significant sign of major head trauma. And he had some CSF, the clear fluid dripping out of his nose and his ears. And I remember just kneeling down next to him. It was a beautiful sunny day. School had just let out. And I just remember brushing his blonde hair back off his forehead. It was caked in blood. And honestly, like, I remember telling him it was okay that I had him and I was going to take good care of him and help him out, unwrapping his leg from around the back of his neck. And I just remember the sun, like the sun on his blue, what used to be his blue eyes, beautiful blue sky. And it's weird, the little details that you remember about those things. Like, we traction splinted his femur en route to the hospital. Obviously got him on the backboard real quick and got him transported, and he didn't make it. But it's little things like that, like the sun on a blown pupil, like the first time that you smell beer and blood mixed, from a fatal accident with a drunk driver, where you just know by the smell when you walk up that person's dead. And
Did you have kids when you were on that call?
Yeah. So my kids were probably about 3 or 4 at the time. It was pretty early in their life, but yeah.
I'm lucky that I didn't have children when I was going through the EMS stuff, but now as a pediatrician, when I see sick kids or things like that, man, that stuff hits so different now as a parent. Did that have any role in kind of your story?
Yeah, the kids are always hard, man, especially when you got little ones of your own. It's, they didn't do anything to deserve these traumas. We had one baby infant who was raped to death by his grandfather, and just the entire engine crew just started beating the grandfather's ass. Like it was, we got there and the grandfather had no qualms about it. He was in charge of babysitting the kid, and he raped him to death, and the cops had to pull us off of him. So there was nothing we could do. The infant was already dead. It's terribly tragic when children are involved, and it tugs at your heartstrings. So stuff you never forget.
You're getting into Ryan's wheelhouse here. I can see him getting pissed off just thinking about this.
That reminds me of a story where a dad ended up getting a call from mom. The landlord was caught in a compromising position with their, I don't know, probably 6 or 7-year-old daughter. So dad came home right away, and the guy confessed to it, and he started beating the ever-loving crap out of him, and ended up stopping because he realized that he was probably going to get charged with murder, didn't want to be gone. He had other kids too, and didn't want to not be there for him. So that kind of comes up at the sentencing. So we're doing the sentencing, and defense attorney's kind of like, well, you were kind of ticked off. What'd you do, right? And the guy was on the stand, like kind of not squirming, but like, well, I was like, I'll ask those questions. I was like, what did you do? I was like, you have full immunity. You have full immunity for any assault that occurred. Tell us what you did. But you're the guy that made the right choice not to commit the homicide or whatever. And it was just about the most understandable reaction someone could have. So
it's so hard to control your emotions when it's a situation like that. And I think everybody understands the impact that it has on everybody that's involved there.
And I think it's kind of, for you, it's like the mental health aspect. It's a trifecta, right? So in your early 20s, your brain isn't fully developed yet. You're a father with children, so you understand, you think of your kids at that age. We had a guest that mentioned this. I can't remember what it was. It was a 911 dispatcher, Beth, that like when you have children and you deal with someone on the other side going through a trauma, you like impose your children's face on that victim sometimes. Yeah. And it just makes it more intimate. So you have the trauma, you're a father, and you're young, really still, your brain is still forming. It's kind of a really bad recipe for long-term trauma and having to deal with it.
Agreed.
So I don't want to dwell so much on the specific mental health trauma stuff, because there's other things I want to delve into, because your story is so much broader with the fire department stuff. But in your book, you describe how you've kind of like landed at this point with dealing with the mental health trauma. And you seem to have a very, I think, mature and positive response to it. And I was hoping you could tell us a little bit more about, like, how did you get past this stuff, and what do you do these days to try to live a more productive and positive life?
Absolutely. Let's lighten it up a little bit. So in the fire service, the way that we cope with these traumas is to play pranks on each other. So I have a whole chapter in the book on pranks. You guys should check it out. It's awesome. It's some of the most creative things that I've ever heard or seen in my life. And a lot of the great ones are in there. After the fire service, we kind of mature and understand that pranks aren't always the best way to approach it. So for me, when I got hit in the head from a structure collapse at a working fire, I had some suicidal ideation. I had a TBI, and I had a moment with a gun where I almost took my life, and I was committed for 5 days, which I don't recommend for any of your listeners. That was probably the worst experience of my life doing that. But I can laugh about it now. We're past that stage. So one of the things that I learned while I was in there, other than don't tell people you're really suicidal. Anyway, I'm sorry. You should probably strike that. That's terrible advice, but that's what got me locked up, was telling them, yeah, I actually did think about doing it.
Hey everybody, Ryan here. I'm with Susan Wendishin, Senior Director of Operations for the Dear Jack Foundation, which is a charity that helps young adults between the ages of 18 and 39 deal with a cancer diagnosis and navigate that difficult process. And the Dear Jack Foundation has an interesting origin story. So Susan, can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'd love to. So we were founded by a musician. His name is Andrew McMahon. I always say musician and all-around great human. He'd probably be very embarrassed knowing I say that. But Andrew, he was the front man for the bands Jack's Mannequin, Something Corporate, and Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. But Andrew had cancer in his early 20s, right as he was about to embark on a nationwide tour with one of his biggest albums called Everything in Transit. He got a stem cell transplant from his sister. He came through and is doing great. This is for him 20 years post-cancer this year. But he really realized in an era where cancer is a huge call to action health item, there's nothing out there for the young adult age range. So he started Dear Jack to bridge that gap and really support these young people in the unique way that they need help and psychosocial support.
An incredible story and a great charity. So if anyone's interested in supporting that cause, please visit the show notes or visit dearjackfoundation.org and donate now. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Your story is a tough one, and there was a lot of honesty with it. That has a frustrating factor of sometimes and depending on the job you're in, sometimes talking about it can make things terribly worse for you. And sometimes I'll have like patients where they get committed and they learn worse shit there. They learn either how to like manipulate the system or pick up bad habits, like when they're committed. And so many times it can make it worse. And we want to have trust and faith in our system and the healthcare providers. But God damn, sometimes it gets bad in these, like, particularly these far into the spectrum kind of scenarios.
Yeah.
Two things about that. I mean, as a country, I don't know what it's going to take to take funded inpatient care for mental health and have it at a high quality level. I don't know what it's going to take, but I don't know anybody that does it very well. It's a problem in the criminal justice system. It's a problem on the civil side. I don't think we're going to fix it now. But let me ask you this: as terrible as that experience was, if you had not said anything and been committed, what do you think would have happened?
Yeah, that's where I was going next with this. So
okay,
so a lot of the nurses I knew in that facility, and so when I was in there, we'd have some candid conversations, and I'd just explain to them how this is not helping me at all. I have a head trauma. And I'm not receiving any care for my concussion or TBI. And it's just all the stimulus in the mental institution is making it worse. Like it was ridiculous, the crazy stuff that went on in there. And it was like a prison. And then I asked the nurse in that conversation, she said, what's the alternative? Like to let you pull the trigger? Like if we hadn't done it, would you have gone home and done it? And I'm like, maybe. And she goes, well, that's unacceptable. So the best we can do right now is to incarcerate you. And once you fulfill your requirements, then we release you. So basically I learned to keep my mouth shut and not tell anybody that I was having some issues. So, and that's not the right thing to do either. So that was my takeaway from it. Was if I hadn't told anybody, then I wouldn't have got locked up. So
can you go more into kind of where you are right now? And you touch on this in the book about like kind of like finding mindfulness and kind of more, more how do you approach things day to day now?
Yes. So one of the best things that came out of that was reading Jon Kabat-Zinn's book, Wherever You Go, There You Are. And in that book, he talks about having mindfulness in everything that you do, how every single aspect of your life can be a meditation. And if you just focus, try and remember your goals. My goals are always to try and make things better because I was there, to try and help people whenever I can, and to leave this world a better place than it was, before I got here. So I try and focus on just doing the right thing at the right time and trying to say the right thing, do the right thing. And it doesn't always work out, but at least you try, and, you do the right thing at the right time. Sometimes you can make miracles happen. So
when you started on the service that you had, you were on the God Squad and you had stronger faith. How did that evolve throughout your time on the fire service? And does it still play a role in your life today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my youngest son just got baptized for the first time. He's now a member of the God Squad. So, my father was a pastor. I had a lot of questions growing up about Old Testament God versus New Testament God, and I think I met somebody, and I ended up marrying her, my second wife. So she's a medium, one of the most powerful mediums on the planet. She can see your loved ones that have passed away, and they stand right there and tell her everything you've been going through. So in 30 seconds, it'll blow your mind and make you rethink everything that you thought was going on here. I understand that we're here for soul evolution. We're here to grow as individuals and to learn lessons, maybe that we messed up on in a previous life, or that and I know people are going to disagree with what I'm saying, but I have a knowing about it, and I'm here to try and do better than I did yesterday, learn from it and grow.
Well, we said it, I think, in the last Carry On episode, is that we want to be very clear with this show that we're not passing judgment, but this is about your story, telling your story. So the intersection of religion and mindfulness, and that's been a tool for you. Sounds like you're in a good place with family now. If there was someone thinking about joining the fire service in a city such as you joined, what advice would you give for them?
Yeah, so that's a funny question because my son just joined the fire service.
Okay.
So he's 19.
In the same area that you were working? Same?
He wanted to. We talked him out of it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so his career path was taking him to the Army after high school, and his mom didn't want him to do that, so she kind of gave him a different alternative, and he grew up in the fire station with me. So this is kind of why nepotism is really strong in the fire service, right? Because these children grow up with us. They're called legacies, and so they're already light years ahead of somebody who doesn't have experience in the fire service. They come and seen their parents every day that they're working. The mom brings them up there, or the dad brings them up there to see family. And like my kid actually used to go on ride-alongs when he was 8 or 9, 10 years old. He'd go to structure fires. I got helmet cam videos of him in the fire truck riding to fully involved structure fires with me on the ladder truck. And so yeah, he's what would I tell him? Somebody who's considering the same thing, the same path, I tell him don't do it. Just like I told him don't do it. But at the same time, he sees a fast path to retirement. He sees a guaranteed pension and benefits, just like I did when I was that age. And he sees adrenaline and the chance to be a hero. So he's not going to listen to me. He's gonna go dive head first straight into the shallow end, man. You telling
me a young man doesn't do exactly as his parents say when he's leaving the nest? That's crazy.
Absolutely not. They need to learn the hard way.
So you've talked a lot about the course of your career, the compounding trauma, corruption, the things you've seen. When you ended up leaving the fire service, how did that leave a taste in your mouth? Did you leave on good terms, or is it some, I don't know what the word is, resentment, bad feelings, anything like that?
So that was kind of the whole premise for the book, right? So after my 5-day stint in the loony bin, I was tainted goods. So you can't be a government employee having done time in a mental institution.
Oh, really? That's it? You're done?
Yeah, it was pretty much done. So they wouldn't. So we had this crazy rule where you couldn't transfer divisions. So like I tried to go into the training division, they wouldn't let me. They said you had to return to the division that you were injured in before, and then I wouldn't. I went and saw 4 different doctors, and none of them would write me back to work. So I was kind of shunned. Out of the 250 brothers and sisters that I had, I still talk to maybe 4 or 5 on a yearly basis, like maybe once a month. So it was, I was done. So they put me on duty disability, and I got diagnosed just with a traumatic brain injury. They wouldn't let me come back and be a training officer, even though I had all the qualifications for it. And So basically just put me out to pasture. And during COVID, I was going stir crazy at home. And Mrs. Lilly said, you need to just start writing all that stuff down. And we shopped it around to different publishers, and nobody wanted to touch it because it kind of threw dirt on the profession. So we self-published. And
what do you think affected you more at this point in your life? The cumulative, and it can be both, the cumulative trauma of the things you saw from your career, or the stark kind of betrayal and being cast away at the end?
I think probably the betrayal. I mean, there's physical trauma too. That I mean, like I've got scars all over from injuries and things that happened in that career. So I think the book was great to just kind of throw up 20 years of trauma on some pages. The original book was 1,300 pages long. It got edited down to 400. So
wow,
some of the more risque stuff didn't get included in there, if you could believe that.
You had to take it from a rated X to a rated R.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad, man. So we toned it down a little bit, but it was all true. Here's my takeaway. Okay, so pretty much everybody's high. Pretty much everything in government is corrupt. That sounds really pessimistic, but from my point of view, that's what I saw. And I know to a certain degree, that's what you guys see too. It depends on the organization. And this organization was not worthy of the praise that everybody gives it. So I would say get everything that you can and try and help people along the way. So, but don't trust the government for anything. It pains me to say that, but that was my reality. Like I trusted them to be there if I ever got injured, and they ran and they dumped me. You know, I did get a pension in the bennies, and that's why I hired on in the first place, but it took a lot of fighting. They wanted to just fire me and say that what happened wasn't a result of getting hit in the head by 2,000 pounds of force. So I had to get an attorney and fight for it. And in the end, everybody knew that it was right, and it just drug it out and was painful. I went without a paycheck for 9 months, and thank God for the people that stuck by me.
When you were in the service before your injury, did you see other firefighters go through this process?
Yeah, so probably somewhere between 50 and 75 of my coworkers went through the same thing, where they'd get hurt on a job and just get dumped, and they'd have to fight for everything, even though all the documentation was there to show that it was a line of duty injury. People it was deniability. It was, what do they say? Plausible deniability, where the insurance companies can just say, no, we're not going to pay that. And then you have to claw and scratch to get everything that was promised to you when you hired on, where they'd take care of you. You knew it was an inherently dangerous job, and you put your life on the line, but then all of a sudden, when you're damn near killed, then they want to just cut you loose. And it was terrible to watch. And that's why nobody wanted to go on duty disability, because they'd berate you and you'd lose everything that you worked for. And you'd have to fight to keep a paycheck. It was rough for a lot of people.
I'm sorry I had to go through that, man. That's not how people want to end their government service, for sure.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest trauma of the whole experience right there.
To shift gears, one thing we frequently do with the show, particularly with these harder episodes, we kind of we'll throw this out there. Tell us a funny story.
Yeah. Ryan Connor would usually be the setup for like trying to throw in a joke or something like that. He couldn't be here because he had to get rid of his cancer today. So everyone's got an excuse for not being here. But
his basal cell carcinoma.
I know it's procedure. The lamest of the cancers. But anyway, if he were here, he would try to inject some humor. So what do you got for that? What's one of the funnier stories that stick out in your mind?
So we're gonna head back to the pranks. The prank story here. Every day you had to be careful. You could open a door and there'd be a cup of water sitting up on top of this door that was kind of cracked open, and you open the door and the whole cup of water dumps on you, right? So you had to be careful everywhere you went. There'd be tripwires with dental floss, with coffee filters full of flour, same thing above your head, or flour towels. So they take the rags in the kitchen and they'd fill them with flour, and then you'd wash your hands, and then you'd go to grab the towel off the counter and just dump flour all down your uniform. But those are some of the lighter ones, right? So there were intricate ones that would just be like a mousetrap game where things just kept hitting you. Some guys would tie like bags of potatoes to the corner of beds and then kick to the corner of bed sheets and blankets, and then like kick the bag of potatoes down the pole hole, right? So the bag would go down and then the rope would pull the covers off the guy that was sleeping in bed, and he'd be asleep like that. And then just all of a sudden the covers are gone and down the pole hole. Like, then you'd have guys that would take it to the extreme level, right? So we had this one guy, we're just going to call him JD, right? So JD was legendary, and he would constantly pick on new kids, right? So 2 new kids cooking in the kitchen. JD tells him he's going to go up on the roof and do some training evolutions, right? So he takes Rescue Randy up there. Rescue Randy's our 150, 180 pound dummy. Takes Rescue Randy up to the roof. The boys cooking in the kitchen don't know. And he dresses Rescue Randy in his uniform. And then he leans over the edge of the roof and he throws Rescue Randy over, and Rescue Randy falls right past the kitchen window where the boys are cooking. And as he falls, JD yells from the roof and screams like he's falling off the roof, right? And so Rescue Randy hits the ground right outside. And the boys are like, "Oh my God." One of them's like, "Go grab the blue bag off the truck. I'll call 911." And then they go outside and the kid runs up with the blue bag, and JD's standing, like on the corner of the building, just cracking up, and they run out there thinking he's dead. Or he'd have kids up on the top of the roof of the station with a radio on storm watch in the pouring rain. Like he'd say, "Yeah, there's a severe weather rolling in. You got to go up on the roof and sit up there through it, and let dispatch know occasionally if it's raining." So you hear kids on the radio like, "Oh yeah, this is recruit so and so from Station 8. Just want to let you know it's still raining out here." I mean, there were terrible ones. You got to read the book. They're all in the book, man. If you need to know how to play Firehouse Pranks, they're all in there.
What a great scenario. You have several, dozens, hundreds of firefighters that are all experiencing trauma on a daily basis. And what you do is make sure they're on pins and needles the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one we would do, we'd set up an IV bag above someone and just with a slow drip, have it like just slowly leak all over them. And it was just enough that you wouldn't wake up from it, but you wake up and you're like, did I piss myself?
Yourself?
You're just sopping wet.
Yeah. The KY on the door handles of the ambulance, that was always good, or on the steering wheel, or turning the sirens on while the vehicle's off, and then they go to put their key in the ignition and it's on. Turning the heat up all the way in the summertime in the Chief's car while he leaves it running out in the parking lot, or the AC in the wintertime.
Reminds me, I was a helicopter crew chief in the Marine Corps, and the helicopter I was on, CH-46, there's a pump in the back, and then what the pump is for is to pump up, get some hydraulic fluid in the auxiliary power plant to start the helicopter. Has no function whatsoever while it's operating or spinning or anything like that. But we would carry grunts, infantry guys, from place to place sometimes. And just to mess with them while we're in flight, and we get the pilots on the radio, on the internal radio, and the crews and the grunts in the back, the infantry guys, they can't hear that. All they hear is like incredibly loud, rotor blades going. So what we do, we'd act all nervous, and the pilot was working with us. They'd drop the collective, so we'd start dropping, and we'd run over and start pumping that pump as much as possible, and the pilot would bring us back up in the air a little bit, and then he'd do that a couple of times, and you just collapse. You're like, I can't. And you get the grunts over there, and they start pumping as hard as they can, and the pilots are bringing it up, and just the whole flight, they're just like, "You're next. You're just pumping the whole way." Oh, it was so fun, so fun. So we appreciate a little levity following the first 40 some odd minutes of this episode. And before we go, do you have any final thoughts, Brad?
Yeah, I think I just want to end by saying that life's a series of moments. Okay. So there's great moments and there's absolutely terrible moments. And some of them are going to be the best you've ever had. And some of them are going to be the worst. And if you check out, like I thought about doing, if you check out, you're going to miss all the great ones. And you're going to miss all the bad ones too, but that's what makes you who you are. And that's what helps you learn lessons. So just push through all the terrible ones and understand that, you can surround yourself with great people and they can help pick you up. My family, they were always there for me, never left me, even when they could have. And just weather the storm. It's the storm that shows our true character. The hard times. So always try and stay even keeled. Don't get too high on the highs and don't get too low on the lows, and be mindful of the overall goal that we're trying to accomplish here in life. And if you check out, you're going to miss all the beautiful moments. So there's lots of them coming up, and you should all stick around for them. So that'd be my advice. Having had a lot of friends check out, I would say that's my advice. So for what it's worth.
That sounds like pretty good advice to me as well. And if anybody's interested in finding out more, hearing more about Brad's story, check out The Bravest, A Fireman's Tale by Brad Lilly. You can search for it on Google. It's going to come up on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, different place like that. If Ryan was here, cancer-free Ryan Connor, if he was here, he would say, check out his book, The Party. You can get that on Amazon. You can also check out his special, get all his information on ryanconnorcomedy.com. He's got some upcoming shows. And I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much, Brad, for being willing to share all that. Hopefully our listeners enjoyed it, and I can't wait for the emails.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you, Brad.
Right,
Appreciate
thanks.
it. Best of luck.
Music for Baggage provided by Quincy Ledbetter. You can find his stuff at qledbetter.com. Graphics provided by Megan Weaver. You can find her at meganweaverart.com. Special thanks to our premium members for their support. You can become a premium member by clicking subscribe in your Apple Podcast app or by visiting thebaggagepodcast.com/support to sign up or to gift a membership to someone. A percentage of all proceeds go to charity. If you have any questions, comments, or a good story to share, please email us at thebaggagepodcast@gmail.com.